Before Marvel Studios revealed that the Thunderbolts were the new Avengers, many fans thought they would be the Dark Avengers. Following Secret Invasion, things got very complicated in the Marvel Universe. You have to understand the Skrulls attempted an invasion without anyone noticing. This spoke very poorly of Earth's security systems and made everyone paranoid. During the fight against the Skrulls, Norman Osborn took advantage of the situation to gain the general public's trust. He promoted his own team of heroes and eventually killed Queen Varanki on a TV transmission in Secret Invasion number 8, January 2009. Of course, he became a hero. That's right, the Green Goblin turned into a beloved paladin of the human race. So when the US government shut down S.H.I.E.L.D. following their failure, Osborn became the new face of national security. Needless to say, he took advantage of this immediately. First, he established his cabal. Picture the Illuminati, but evil. In fact, they're often known as the Dark Illuminati. This team included Namor, Emma Frost, Dr. Doom, Hood, Loki, and Taskmaster. All known villains, or at least anti-heroes. With some of the most evil minds of his time backing him up to create a new world order, Osborn then created Hammer and appointed himself as director. His first motion of order? Blaming Tony Stark publicly for what happened. Since Iron Man was behind S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, it wasn't difficult to spin the narrative against him. In reality, the villain only wanted control over Stark's inventions, but nobody saw his true agenda. Not then, and not when he turned the Thunderbolts into his corrupted Black Ops team. This era of Marvel was such a hopeless time for the heroes that it is known as the Dark Reign. But nothing Osborn did at this time is as cunning as creating the Dark Avengers. This team was just a ruse to keep control of the narrative. Osborn's audacity led him to create his own Avengers team. But he knew people would complain unless he gave them exactly what they wanted. So he did. In Dark Avengers number 1, January 2009, Osborn recruited some of his most loyal minions and turned them into a cheap copy of the original Avengers. These villains took the mantle of beloved heroes so the people would forget their pasts. Bullseye became Hawkeye, Moonstone turned into Ms. Marvel, and Venom was now marketed as the new Spider-Man. Then Daken, one of Wolverine's kids, took his dad's moniker just to mess with his reputation. And Novar used his Kree powers to become the new Captain Marvel. Ares and Sentry didn't even get new names. They simply aligned themselves with Osborn's values, which was terrible. The cherry on top was Osborn himself. This villain became Iron Patriot thanks to an armor suit. With this new identity, he basically usurped both Iron Man and Captain America's identities. You probably already guessed it. The Dark Avengers took their name based on the abilities they could emulate. Lester, aka Bullseye, is an assassin with a dangerous talent. He was born with an uncanny accuracy. It doesn't matter what he's throwing, where he's throwing to, or even if it's moving. He will hit the, well, bullseye. This is exactly why he was given the Hawkeye moniker. Like the beloved archer, Lester has expert marksmanship, so he never misses. Since he knows exactly how to throw them, even the strangest objects become mortal weapons in his hands. We've seen him use tons of stuff as a weapon. Lester has never used his abilities for good though. In Dark Reign, Hawkeye number 1, April 2009, he saved a woman being attacked. He killed 2 of the assailants and then crucified the other one to a van. Then for some reason, he also killed the woman. Not enough for him though. Once he noticed a camera crew was recording him, he killed them too. It was a scene straight out of The Boys, to be honest. A psychiatrist with zero professional ethics, Karla Sofen experimented with her patients and manipulated them so they would continue giving her money. While working with Lloyd Bloch, Sofen convinced the villain to give her the Moonstone, a Kree device that granted her abilities in Captain America number 192, September 1975. Thanks to the Moonstone, Sofen has superhuman strength, speed, and stamina. Her bodily tissues are tougher than the average person's, and she's incredibly agile. But these are just the consequences of her greater powers. Moonstone can use Earth's gravity to pull herself through the air as if she's flying at the speed of light. She used to be able to manipulate gravity itself, but not anymore. However, she can create a blinding light that covers her body, and she can harness energy to shoot it from her hands. She can make herself intangible. No wonder Osborn chose her as the new Ms. Marvel. Of course, she was never as heroic. Sofen used her time as a Dark Avenger to kill people without consequences and mess around with her teammates. The Avengers aren't the Avengers without a Spidey in their ranks, and Norman Osborn knew this. Of course, the villain didn't invite Peter Parker. Instead, he recruited McDonald killed Gargan, who was Venom at the time. Still bound to the symbiote, Gargan assumed the Spider-Man identity. However, since he had very little control of it, Osborn kept him on a strong sedative, so he would behave. As Venom, Gargan got the full treatment. He was super strong, super resistant, and super fast. But additionally, he got some of Spider-Man's abilities, since the symbiote had somehow replicated them before joining Gargan. He could wall crawl, and got a spidey sense too, as well as the ability to shoot webs. Additionally, he had the standard symbiote skills. Although he was constantly medicated, Gargan had a great time as one of the Dark Avengers because he had full access to dozens of victims, which allowed him to satisfy his most sadistic instincts. Generally, he would maim the criminals he took down, often keeping some of their limbs to eat. Of course, due to the medication, this didn't last long. Soon, he wasn't fit for combat anymore. It was around this time that Spider-Man separated Gargan from his symbiote in Siege, Spider-Man #1, April 2010, just in time for Mac to retake the Scorpion moniker. Akihiro is currently known as Helverine, but there was a time when he was also known as Daken and even as Wolverine. Osborn recruited him to be a part of the Dark Avengers as Wolverine, although this was his father's moniker. Since he's a mutant with regenerative abilities and retractable claws, it wasn't very difficult to convince the public that Akihiro was perfect for the role. What not everyone knew is that Daken has an extra ability. He can use his pheromones to manipulate others, causing all kinds of emotions in them or even masking his own scent so no one can find him. The superhuman strength and speed are only a bonus. Although he worked alongside the Dark Avengers for a while, Daken always had his own agenda. For once, he was only on it to spite his father, but he also kept manipulating his teammates to fight each other as well as Osborn himself. All with his pheromones. To be honest, Daken was never interested in the glory that came with being an Avenger. He was just there to be as chaotic as possible. Hailing from Earth 200,080, Novar is a Kree young man who was turned into a super soldier by his people using cockroach DNA. But don't worry, his abilities are barely related to this animal. At some point, Novar got lost in the multiverse and ended up on Earth 616, where he has been living since then. As an enhanced Kree warrior, Novar has abilities beyond both Kree and human. He can lift up to 25 tons, he goes as fast as 150 miles per hour, he has triple jointed muscles, and he has superhuman reflexes. Besides, he can fly, crawl up walls, and he has super hearing. If this wasn't enough, Novar's bloodstream is full of nanobots. He can redirect pain on his own body, trigger hallucinations with his saliva, and his nails are poisonous. He's truly the whole package, isn't he? Contrary to his peers, Novar isn't a villain. In fact, he naively joined the Avengers, thinking he was there to fight the good fight alongside other heroes. Osborn didn't recruit him. Instead, the Kree warrior offered his abilities to the villain, so he became the new Captain Marvel. Novar did not last very long with the team. When he discovered he was surrounded by villains, he abandoned the roster immediately. Of course, Osborn tried to stop him, so Sentry attacked him, but Novar escaped in Dark Avengers Annual #1, December 2009. After this, Bucky and Steve actually considered him a potential ally, so this is pretty much his origin story as a hero. From here, he actually became a key Young Avengers member. Not everyone on the Dark Avengers shed their previous public name. Ares simply joined Norman Osborn since he openly shared the villain's ideas. After all, he's the god of war, so violence always felt like a natural option for him. In fact, Osborn's Avengers were perfect for Ares. Until then, the god had been working with the mighty Avengers alongside Iron Man and Ms. Marvel. However, this team was far too morally correct for the Olympian, so he became the Dark Avengers muscle. As an Olympian, Ares is super strong, super fast, and super resilient. He's immune to pretty much anything, and he can use certain magic, although he prefers using his fists. Ares is basically immortal too, since he has an incredible healing factor. This, combined with his experience in battle, formidable adversary. He is the god of war after all. Although Ares didn't get a new identity when he joined the team, we could say he was something akin to Thor's counterpart, just Olympian instead of Asgardian. This is, of course, until the actual Thor clone made it to the team, but we'll get there. If you have already watched Thunderbolts, you're now familiar with the Sentry. This is basically Bob's heroic personality who can easily turn into the Void. This constant conflict is also a key element in the Sentry's story in the comics. In fact, Norman Osborn took advantage of it. When Osborn visited Bob, the villain talked to him about his own mental health issues, earning the Sentry's sympathy. Then, he offered Bob a place with the Dark Avengers and a solution to his problems, a mysterious super soldier formula. It became obvious that Osborn had lied when the Sentry tore Morgan Le Fay's head off in a violent state in Dark Avengers #2, February 2009, only to end up in a confused state. Osborn basically helped the Void take control over Bob. job, but then he found himself unable to manage it. In Siege number 2, February 2010, Sentry ended up ripping Ares in half in one of the most gruesome images in Marvel Comics. This situation ended with Thor killing Sentry when the Void became unmanageable in Siege number 4, April 2010. Could you imagine this happening in the MCU? Now, regarding Sentry's abilities, he's basically a super soldier, so he's strong, fast, agile, and has everything needed to survive in battle. But additionally, he has psionic abilities like telekinesis, telepathy, and he can even manipulate matter, turning any material into whatever he wants. Sentry is unarguably among the strongest Marvel heroes ever. It makes sense that Osborn tried to control him. He basically has no weaknesses. Even his death is rarely permanent.
Call me Iron Patriot.
Since he first appeared in Marvel Comics, Norman Osborn has taken different identities. His most famous moniker is the Green Goblin, but he was also the Red Goblin, the Super Adaptoid, Carnage, and Iron Patriot. This is the one he used with the Dark Avengers. During his tenure with this team, Osborn didn't have any abilities on his own, but he confiscated the Iron Patriot Armor Model 1 from the Avengers Tower. This suit of armor was basically a whole battle suit with everything Iron Man could need: flight, repulsors, unibeam, and electromagnetic generators that allowed him to create energy shields. Overall, an amazing addition in battle. However, Osborn underestimated Tony's control over his own technology. During the final battle against Captain America in Siege number 3, March 2010, Tony deactivated the suit, leaving Osborn powerless in the middle of the battlefield. He definitely had it coming. Norman Osborn's leadership was a dark time in Marvel, but it eventually came to an end due to his own hubris. Osborn was basically manipulated by Loki, one of his Cabal members, to try and take control over Asgard. Loki made Osborn paranoid. Asgard had been existing over Earth for a while at this point, and it was easy for the god of mischief to make Osborn believe this could be a threat to humanity. First, Osborn manipulated the situation. He lured Volstagg into fighting the UFOs at a stadium in Siege number 1, January 2010. The hundreds of casualties became the perfect excuse, so he decreed a siege on Asgard. All of Osborn's forces raided the Golden City, including, of course, the Dark Avengers. At this point, even Ares realized how wrong Osborn was, but he was killed by Sentry in Siege number 2. Of course, the original Avengers didn't let the villain get away with this. Captain America reassembled the team, invited the Young Avengers, former S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and Nick Fury's Secret Warriors into battle. Osborn finally fell, and so did all the Dark Avengers, except the Sentry, who destroyed Asgard completely under Osborn's orders in Siege number 3. By this point, even Loki admitted he had gone too far, so he used the Norn stones to enhance the Avengers' abilities and help them. But this wasn't the end. When realizing this, Sentry killed him too in Siege number 4, May 2010. Ultimately, Tony Stark saved the day. He dropped the helicarrier on top of the Void, making him human again for a moment. This was the moment Thor had to mercy kill Bob. Without anyone to fight for him, Osborn was arrested, and so were his Dark Avengers. Siege marked the end of the first ever Dark Avengers roster, but Osborn tried to recreate his team sometime later after he broke out of prison in New Avengers Volume 2, number 18, November 2011. This time, he recruited other villains. Ayapayak was his new Spider-Man. Trickshot became Hawkeye this time. Toxic Doxy emulated Scarlet Witch, Gorgon took the Wolverine mantle, and Scar became the official Gamma being of the team. There was also Ragnarok, a Thor clone created by Iron Man during the Civil War, the one that we mentioned before. This tragic figure actually tried to take down Thor, maybe see if he could be the real thing, but the God of Thunder killed him first. Osborn resurrected him, but he didn't find the glory he was looking for with the Dark Avengers. In fact, this team has never been the real deal. After Osborn was imprisoned again, the Dark Avengers replaced the Thunderbolts for a while, starting in Dark Avengers number 175, June 2012. They were even led by Luke Cage. However, the villains all had an agenda of their own, so it didn't work out. Redemption has never been an option for their wicked minds. With the introduction of the new Avengers to the MCU, wouldn't you like to see the Dark Avengers too? After Valentina introduced her own team with the new Avengers, it wouldn't be weird for some villain with enough resources to try and market his own team of vigilantes. The commodification of the idea of the Avengers is both hilarious and dangerous. From Red Hulk to Scorpion, this cinematic universe has enough villains to put a solid team together. It would be interesting to see some of the MCU's past villains back for a shot at the glory the original Avengers got. It could even allow for some actual redemption stories. Who would you like to see on this team in the MCU? Let us know in the comments, and remember to subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching CBR.